So what's the best way to push back given the rise in anti-Semitic incidents and attitudes on the streets as well as on the web? Here with me in studio to discuss is prominent pro-Israel speaker and influencer Hananya Naftali. It's great to have you back with us.
It's awesome to be here.
I'm very happy to have you. So, okay, first of all, Israel is having a hard time, as we've heard, with many terror attacks, many of them lone wolf attacks. And still, Israel seemingly is lacking with the Hasbara, the pro-Israel advocacy, to show what's happening. Why do you think that that's the case?
I think because we are apologizing. We are apologizing for being right. We are apologizing for existing here. We're apologizing for being here. And we should not be apologizing because we are here. It's a fact. It's our ancestral homeland. So we should not apologize for existing in our ancestral homeland. It is a historic fact. And our enemies, unfortunately, are not very happy with us being here because they don't want to have peace with Israel. They want to have peace without Israel. And frankly, we're not going to let that happen. So the best way to defend Israel is to not apologizing for your truth, but to voice it, to share it fiercely. That's the best possible way.
I see people like you, you're online and you're making these points and you're advocating for Israel. But then, you look at some of the anti-Israel advocates who, I think of Bella and Gigi Hadid, who have more followers on social media than there are Jews on earth.
Yeah.
Is this ultimately a losing battle?
I think that many people would think like this, but look at this way. Israel is 10 million people, approximately. We live in a world of around 8 billion people, and we find ourselves explaining ourselves to a world of 8 billion people. So obviously, even if you are very successful at what you do, it's very hard to get the message out there. And that's why I think that the best possible way, because we have a lot of activists that work day and night against us, around the clock, maybe even getting paid for that. I wish I got paid for that, for defending Israel. But I think that they are voicing lies, and the best way that we can do that is to share the truth in a very genuine and to show the truth as it is. We don't need to find ways to distort it.
So another thing, though, is, of course, especially on social media, a lot of the arguments are boiled down to these soundbite criticisms, which lack the nuance and history and basis for why some of the things that exist today exist. So, what would you say, what's the main thing that pro-Israel advocates or individuals need to portray better in the world? You're saying truth, but, how do you express that in this soundbite heavy instant gratification world?
Well, I would divide the world into 3 groups: people that love us, people that hate us, and people that are neutral. I think that nowadays the battle is on the people that are neutral, the people that are watching the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and are trying to decide who they are.
It seems like everybody has some
Sure.
sort of opinion on this, though.
You'd be surprised. I met a few people that were just, I don't know. I'm not watching the news, but I think that in a even more powerful way, the way that we can do that and to get the message out there is not just to focus on the conflict, not just to focus on what's negative on the terrorist attacks. Israel is an amazing country. You have the Dead Sea, Jerusalem, Tiberias, the Galilee. I was born and raised in the Galilee. It's an amazing, magnificent place. And this is what attracts people when there is positive stuff. And I think that it's hard to make people support you when you portray only the negative side. Obviously, it's the truth. We are dealing with people that are not happy with us existing here. As I've said it previously, because they want peace without Israel. They said no time and time again to peace offers made by Israel because they don't want to live in peace with us. They want peace without us. They don't want a Palestinian state next to us. They want, unfortunately, a Palestinian state on the top of us. Because think about it for a second. What does free Palestine mean? From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It's all of Israel.
Right.
And we are not going to let that happen.
So, I'm reminded again that just over this past weekend following the attack in Ariel, Yahya Sinwar, he was head of Hamas. He's going out and he's saying that Hamas and the pro-Palestinian anti-Israel group has more support than ever. How do you argue with that? How do you expose their lies and their hatred when their voice is being projected often through Western media?
Well, honestly, this is shameful. The fact that Yahya Sinwar and Hamas and Islamic Jihad are getting a stage on the international platforms because they are nothing but ruthless terrorists that, you see just recently, Palestinian workers entered Israel to work in Israel from Gaza. What would happen to me if I enter the Gaza Strip? I would be lynched, I would be murdered, and if in a good scenario, I would be kidnapped and negotiated for my life. So look, these terrorists are, it's preposterous. The fact that they want to be portrayed as freedom fighters. You don't fight for freedom at the expense of freedom of others in the same way that, they like to say that we are the enemy of peace. We are the enemy of Muslims, the enemy of Islam. That's what they say on Ramadan. But we have 21% of the population in Israel. They are Muslim. They are given freedom of worship. And if you ask every Israeli in the street, they will tell you, we don't hate Arabs. We don't hate Muslims because they are part of our society and we just want to live safe and sound, just like anybody else.
So, Hananya, I want to thank you again so much for taking the time and joining me again in studio.
Thank you for having me.
ILTV Plus, your news from Israel and more 24/7. Start your free trial today. Subscribe at iltv.tv and watch from any device.